Perfect!
Let's talk about Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning. Now, the original Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning was released in 2012 and quickly became a critically acclaimed RPG that year, and just as quickly became one of the biggest financial failures in gaming history. See, it was published by EA and developed by 38 Studios, which was founded by former MLB pitcher Curt Schilling, who quickly put together a dream team for their first project. 22-time New York Times bestseller R.A. Salvatore was hired as creative director. He wrote all the dialogue, including a backstory that spanned 10,000 years. Comic book legend Todd McFarlane was brought on as art director, and legendary video game composer Grant Kirkhope was hired to work on the musical score. Though the game went on to sell over 1 million copies in its first 90 days, multiple decisions made behind the scenes by Curt Schilling caused 38 Studios to file for bankruptcy just 3 months after the game was released, with many employees left not only jobless, but some weren't even paid what they were owed. At some point, THQ picked up the rights to the franchise, and that's how we got here. Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning is THQ's attempt to remaster the franchise and introduce it to a whole new audience. I originally thought this was being done in an effort to bring in new fans and gauge interest in a potential sequel, but it's obvious this is more of a re-release and not a remaster. When the original was released, it was praised for its action gameplay, which controlled like a third-person action-adventure game set in an expansive fantasy setting that any RPG fan would lose countless hours exploring. Unfortunately, all praise heaped towards this re-release must be accompanied by a big fat asterisk to remind players that what makes this game great worked in 2012, but in the year 2020 it all feels stale. For example, this game has amazing third-person combat for the year 2012. Now, instead of reimagining the game and refreshing it with a modern take, THQ opted to just re-release the game in its old state and just add a new layer of paint. The menu systems remain unchanged and everything feels immediately outdated. And I mean everything. Nothing from the menus down to the gameplay have been updated, only the visuals. Matter of fact, the opening cinematic title reveal wasn't even changed, choosing to show us the original logo. You begin by crafting your own male or female avatar by choosing from a variety of options such as one of 4 races and one of 5 different faces. Combat was something that was heavily praised back in 2012 and was even compared to God of War because of its fluidity and over-the-top cinematic quick-time kills. You can wield 2 weapons, mapping one to the X button and the other to Y, allowing you to mix and match combinations. You have access to weapons such as longswords, daggers, bows, and even staffs in order to create your ideal character, and finding a combo that fits your style is part of the fun. As you play, you'll unlock new moves and combos along with Reckoning mode, which slows down time and allows you to quickly dispatch a group of enemies. Now, while the combat still feels tight and you always feel in control, for the times, it feels a bit floaty and just overall unsatisfying. The fluidity just isn't there anymore. The story begins with your hero waking up in a pile of dead bodies. You quickly discover that you died, were resurrected by the Well of Souls, and are capable of doing something no other creature has been able to. You have the ability to change fate itself. It's an amazing way to begin a journey as you slowly begin to pull at threads in order to discover not only your place in this world, but also understanding the power that you wield. You can mix and match your upgrade paths, and you can respec your choices at any time, allowing you to switch up your playstyle in the middle of your adventure. When you level up, you can upgrade different skills such as alchemy to create better potions, or persuasion, which gives you access to new dialogue choices. Although the game doesn't have branching story paths, you can use persuasion to convince characters to do things you otherwise would not be able to. After that, you can place one of 3 points in either sorcery, might, and finesse. Sorcery is for players who like using magic and alchemy, might is for people like me who want to focus on close combat, and finesse is the playstyle of choice for gamers who enjoy speed and stealth. These points unlock new perks, stat upgrades, and special moves to fit the playstyle you want. One of the biggest plot points in this game is that your hero isn't bound by a predetermined fate, and I love that neither is your playstyle. You can truly create your own hero without feeling crippled by being just a mage or just a warrior. Now, while the main story can take around 30 hours to complete, the amount of side quests you encounter easily make this a 100-hour game. Now, visually, the game has seen better days. While the resolution has been increased and armor looks shinier than it ever has, it just doesn't stand the test of time really well. While you will encounter various environments throughout your journey, everything just feels flat and one-dimensional, and animations look like stop motion compared to the modern action games we're used to. It's also jarring to see texture popping within a game that just shouldn't have that type of technical issue nowadays, and the load times feel just as long as they did in the original. Now, while I didn't experience technical issues, some players are reporting bugs that existed in the original game released 8 years ago, which is not only embarrassing, but further proof that THQ wanted to re-release this game as cheaply as possible. Like most RPGs, you'll spend a lot of time in menus swapping weapons, separating junk, and comparing stats. And because of that, it feels like the most outdated feature of the game, and one that, at the very least, THQ should have reimagined. The soundtrack still holds up, although the variety can get a bit stale in comparison to most modern games. Now, one thing that was amazing back in 2012 and is still amazing today is the dialogue. Not only is the writing spot on, but the voice acting still holds up. It truly feels like every character has their own voice and cadence, and it doesn't feel like they hired one person to voice 25 different characters. Now, I can't say the same about sound design, as once again, it is something that was great in 2012, but just doesn't work very well now. Kingdoms of Amalur was one of my favorite titles on the Xbox 360, and I wish that THQ would have fully understood the amazing game they had in their hands. It took some amount of faith for THQ to purchase this IP years ago. I just wish they married that faith with a proper budget and intention to revitalize Kingdoms of Amalur, because it absolutely deserved a proper remaster. I think it's important for publishers to reach into the past so future generations can experience amazing stories that they missed, but it's also important to update those experiences so they're able to be seen through a modern lens without compromising the original vision. To deliver this game in its original form alone is doing a disservice to that project, and I don't see this re-release capturing many new fans. This game has an expansive story filled with complex lore and characters that any fantasy RPG fan would love for hours on end, and at $40, this release includes all previous DLC, so it's easily over 100 hours of content, and early next year, THQ is introducing a brand new expansion called Fatesworn. If you're one that can overlook the dated visuals, menus, and mechanics, there is an amazing story and adventure to discover, so definitely check it out. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment down below. It takes a few seconds but has a massive impact on the channel's growth. You can also subscribe to the Camp Koji podcast on your platform of choice to keep up with the latest gaming news. Thank you.